the biggest tragedy of all this, of Finland joining NATO, is that, you're seeing Sweden, Finland, Germany abandon their supposed stances of neutrality, right? What did they mean then? If you were ready to just like throw them in the in the garbage and turn on them from 1 second to the next? Did you ever mean it? Were you ever sincere? Do you understand the concept of neutrality? Why are you so eager to make sure that the Russians feel even more cornered? Okay, let's look at this article from BBC to start off with. Finland will become the 31st member of NATO on Tuesday, the Western Military Alliance's Secretary General has announced. The application was prompted by the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, with which Finland shares a long border. Yeah. Now, Turkey had delayed the application, right? So I'll go back into this for you, for those of you who don't know why. I've covered this extensively, but Turkey delayed the application, complaining that Finland, that these Scandinavian countries were basically harboring the PKK. The PKK are the the Kurdish Workers' Party, and they are basically, they are completely vilified. They're literally considered a terrorist organization by Turkey. So the fact that Sweden or Finland have accommodated them, Turkey's looking at that and saying, you guys are harboring people that we consider terrorists. So we're not going to let you into NATO. We're going to block your application. And they can do that because in NATO, for a new member to join, everybody has to say yes. There has to be unanimous support. Now, I told you, what did I tell you? Didn't I tell you? Because I told you, Turkey was going to let them join. Sweden, not yet. I told you that Turkey is going to milk this cow dry for, Erdogan is going to milk this cow dry for everything he can get. What does that mean? Politically, he wants as many goddamn concessions as he can get before he even thinks about letting Finland join NATO. You understand? And what happened? They lifted the arms ban. Yes? The exports ban. They started revising their fucking laws to extradite PKK members. I mean, they did everything that he wanted, right? And now he's rewarding Finland by proving their application and not standing in the way. But what does this mean for the world, for Russia, for the war, for Ukraine? Well, Sweden applied to join NATO at the same time last May, but Turkey's blocking it over similar complaints. Sweden hasn't kissed the ring enough. You understand? Sweden has some work to do, and especially I say this. I mean, I'm not joking. That's what he wants, and especially you have to remember this burning of the Quran, of the Holy Quran. Was that not in Sweden? So he basically, I mean, he holds that against them. But I can assure you, it's not the only thing. It's not exactly a concession that he can. There's nothing to really be gained there. He's just upset at them. But it's not the only thing, right? So Erdogan has accused Sweden of embracing, like I mentioned, literally everything I told you, Kurdish militants, and allowing them to demonstrate on the streets of Stockholm, right? So it's not just burning Qurans, it's also allowing people that we hate politically to demonstrate at all. And again, I don't know how you can compare those, because to me, burning a Quran and protesting are well, anyway. Some people think that it's freedom of expression to burn a Quran. Okay, whatever. I'm not really into that form of protest, to put it mildly. But in Syria, you respect other people's religion. Now I know that's just my upbringing. From my mother's side, right? Being Syrian Christian, you have respect towards others, Jews, Muslims, whatever. You don't touch. It's like in Syria, because there's so many ethnic groups, there's so many religious groups. Everybody just kind of like, respects one another to avoid having the social fabric collapse. This is what I'm talking about. But anyway, he wants the Kurdish militants to not be able to protest, and he doesn't want people to burn Qurans. That's what Erdogan wants from Sweden. It's one of the things he wants. Finland, this is what's scary, okay? Please put on your thinking caps for a second. Finland, a country with 1,340 kilometer border with Russia. I refuse to use the imperial system, not because I'm an anti-imperialist. It's just it's archaic. That's huge. Okay, that is absolutely enormous. And it has one of the most powerful arsenals of artillery pieces in Western Europe. It decided to ditch its neutrality, as I mentioned, and join the alliance in response to Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Sweden also abandoned a long-standing commitment to neutrality in applying to join NATO. I mean, I am very and deeply disappointed. I know it was sort of a charade, especially with Germany. They were arming Saudi Arabia and pretending to be neutral. But Jesus Christ, man, like, you know that NATO pisses off the Russians. How the fuck is making NATO bigger supposed to make you safer from Russia? I mean, what is this logic? So this is what I'm telling you. For Russian President Vladimir Putin, Finland's accession to NATO is a major strategic setback, right? It's not good for him. It's the opposite of what he wants. Putin sent his army into Ukraine last year with the expectation that it would check, so basically, counter or put an end to or block NATO's expansion and weaken Western collectivism. In fact, it has achieved the exact opposite. Really? Yeah, you have like another notch on the number of NATO members, but your Western, our Western collectivism is isolating us, and the whole world is developing while we're busy, giving weapons manufacturers giant checks. Very civilized. From one point of view, I understand what they're saying. Like, you could argue that Putin, you hate NATO, and now because of what you've done, NATO is bigger. So actually, you've shot yourself in the foot. That's what the BBC are basically implying, right? Now, somebody else might say NATO was going to shoot Putin in the foot either fucking way. So, he had no choice but to do XYZ, right? Go into Ukraine. Now, I don't know about the annexation, but you understand? Because the other side of the argument is that, if you don't stand up to a bully, and NATO is a bully, they're going to keep pushing you around and taking more and more and more. And this is going to, you have to understand, this history begins in 2014, right? Putin did not wake up on February 24th, last year and just fucking randomly decide to invade a country. I mean, I'm not saying that was the best decision, but there is history here, and a very, very big geopolitical battle right in Ukraine, and the Ukrainians are, of course, the ones that suffer the most. But I wouldn't, just dismiss Putin as like some kind of idiot, which is what the BBC are implying. The war's not over, remember? So in response to Mr. Stoltenberg's announcement, that's the Secretary General of NATO, Russia's Deputy Foreign Minister Grushko said that, quote, in the event the forces and resources of other NATO members are deployed in Finland, we will take additional steps to reliably ensure Russia's military security. So this is very interesting again, and it shows the diplomatic tact of the Russians, and you have to pay attention to their words, because the Russians are not saying we completely oppose Finland's accession to NATO. I mean, they do, but they don't phrase it that way. They have a bigger issue, which is other NATO troops from other NATO countries coming to their border just because Finland is now a member. Do you understand? Because that shit is salami technique. That is about encircling Russia, right? It's like, okay, you're in the club now. Quick, everybody, fucking surround Russia. Come here. And they've been doing this over and over and over again. And why is this important? Because this was one of the demands, the security demands that Russia had, that Russia tried diplomatically to get through the West's goddamn head before there was a war, before the invasion. So that was December of 2021. Yes, the Russians sent a sort of plea to the Americans, like, dude, we're not telling these NATO countries to leave NATO, but only their troops should be there. Now, obviously, NATO, doesn't work that way. The whole point of NATO is that it's a unified thing, and an attack on one of them is an attack on all of them. And the troops in NATO have to learn to, for example, if you have a battlefield and an Italian unit gets wiped out, you should be able to just grab a German one, which is often what happened in World War II. They had to, clean up after them. But listen, my point is that you can kind of take any NATO country, troops from any NATO country, just mush them together, and they work because they've been trained for that. This is called interoperability. So, I understand Russia's concern, though. Like, if you want to join NATO, fine, and your troops are there, fine. but you're not inviting your friends to our border, right? That's basically their point, and I don't know how you can disagree with them, because any country, especially a power like Russia, is going to view that as a threat. So Finland will become the 7th NATO country on the Baltic Sea, further isolating Russia's coastal axis. This is a very nice way the BBC have found of saying that basically more countries are surrounding Russia and doing the thing that Russia doesn't like, and that Russia has been telling us it does not fucking like. And again, I would go back to what I always say, which is that this has literally nothing to do with Putin. Even if Russia did not exist, these principles in geopolitics and international relations would be literally the exact same. It's like laws of physics, okay? It's not about who the president is. It's not about what country it is. You have a tiny country next to a giant country inviting another rival power to fuck with the neighbor. It's always going to end badly, unfortunately. And for the Ukrainians, they're the ones being used. It's not the Ukrainians like they deserve this or they invited this upon themselves. Not at all. Ukrainians want to join NATO or the EU. That's their business. But the United States, carrying out fucking coups. And you heard Victoria Nuland, she says, F the EU. I like how I cuss, and then the next second it's like F, not fuck. But that's the problem. It's this external influence inside of Russian neighbor with the sole purpose of annoying the Russians and threatening them, I would add. So here's, just so you know, the Turkish MPs voted unanimously, overwhelmingly, in favor of Finland's NATO membership application. Look at that. 276 Turkish MPs in favor, zero opposed it, 0 against. All 30 NATO member states have now approved it. Finland is in. Let me show you Mr. Stoltenberg creaming his pants over the prospect of a new NATO member.
This is a historic week. Tomorrow we will welcome Finland as the 31st member of NATO, making Finland safer and our alliance stronger. We will raise the Finnish flag for the first time here at the NATO headquarters. It will be a good day for Finland's security, for Nordic security, and for NATO as a whole.
Sorry, I don't want to torture you any further. I don't know what planet this guy's living on. Oh, this is good for our security. No, it's not, and you're an idiot. Here is Sanna Marin. So she is the prime minister, right? And this is her tweet. This is what she said. She said, Finland's application has now been ratified by all members, and we will join NATO. Thank you to all countries for your support. As allies, we will give and receive security. Sure. We will defend each other. Finland stands with Sweden now and in the future and supports its application. I remember people kind of, fawning over her as like, oh, she's such a bright young woman and so on. And I guess, she certainly is in many ways. But at the end of the day, it's like, they're all warmongers and fucking idiots when it comes to geopolitics. They talk about security and all they do is imperil their own security and provoke others. I mean, this is madness. Let me show you this. Stoltenberg again. I apologize.
Didn't start in February last year. The war started in 2014, and since 2014, NATO allies have provided support to Ukraine with training, with equipment.
Oh, you have you? What have you been doing since 2014? NATO has been supplying what? Let's play that again.
NATO allies have provided support to Ukraine with training, with equipment, so the Ukrainian armed forces were much stronger.
Damn, I cannot for the life of me imagine why the Russians would feel threatened. I just can't get it, I can't crack this, man.
With training, with equipment, so the Ukrainian armed forces were much stronger.
Please ask yourself this question. Be honest with yourself. Whatever your viewpoint is. What do you think the United States would do if, let's say China was giving military equipment and training to I don't know, Cuba? Shall we use Cuba again? Cuban Missile Crisis, I thought it was demonstrative enough, but some people apparently don't know the history. What do you think the United States would do if China was arming militias or even the armed forces, the official armed forces of Cuba? You think they would just like sit there and watch this and do nothing? Now, I'm not saying it's like, oh, you have to go to war and war is the only solution. No. My point is that you are, instead of doing diplomacy, you are provoking and imperiling everybody's security. We're talking now about nuclear armed countries, and Russia's one of them, pitted against each other. You know, the doomsday clock is at 90 seconds. It's never been this close. What the fuck more do I have to say, or you know, do people have to do for this generation, you know, the people on this planet to understand the gravity of the situation? That's all I'm saying, man. You know, in the 1960s, at least people grasped, oh shit, you know, there might be nuclear war. I'm going to build a bunker in my backyard. You know, this stuff is serious. Now everyone's like, no, Ukraine, come on, it's for Ukraine. I love paying higher gas bills. Oh, I love it. Please exploit me.
In 2022 than there were in 2014, and of course that made a huge difference when President Putin decided to attack Ukraine. It didn't start in February last year.
Yeah.
The war started in 2014, and since 2014, NATO allies have provided support to Ukraine with training, with equipment, so the Ukrainian armed forces were much stronger in 2022 than they were in 2014, and of course that made a huge difference when President Putin decided to attack Ukraine. It didn't start.
You make of that what you will. You guys ready for a laugh? Are you ready for a laugh? I think you might have watched this already. I don't care. I want to play it again. Here's the Pentagon spokesperson. Apparently he doesn't know East from West, and he can't grasp basic geography. Okay? Wow.
The reason that the Russian army is on NATO, the Russian army is at NATO's doorstep, is because NATO has expanded rather than the Russians expanding. That, in other words, NATO has moved closer to Russia rather than Russia moving closer to NATO. Is that not an accurate way to look at this?
No. You're wrong, man. Putin personally lifted up Russia and brought it closer to NATO. That's how it works. He uprooted the entire country and brought it there.
Rather than the Russians expanding? That, in other words, NATO has moved closer to Russia rather than Russia moving closer to NATO. Is that not an accurate way to look at this?
I think that's the way President Putin probably looks at it. It's certainly
Motherfucker, what do you look at when you see a map? Can you tell East from West? What does this have to do with Putin? His first response is, well, maybe Putin would agree with you, but that's not reality.
Is that not an accurate way to look at this?
I think that's the way President Putin probably looks at it. It's certainly not the way that we look at it.
You don't think that NATO...
Sorry, to be fair, he's right. That's just a statement. That's true. President Putin views it like that, and they don't. I don't want to give him too much shit. Wait for the best part.
It's certainly not the way that we look at it.
You don't think that NATO has expanded eastward toward Russia?
NATO has expanded,
okay.
and the expansion has been a good thing for...
So the reason that the Russian army is at NATO's doorstep is not the fault of the Russian army, it's not the Russian army that's done it. It's NATO has moved closer to moved
I'm pretty
east.
sure it wasn't NATO who was ordering, upwards of 15 battalion tactical groups to within 10 kilometers of the border with Ukraine. And
I know this is going to come as a shock to you, Kirby. I love you, but, that's inside Russia. Yeah, by the way, I know he makes it sound like it's so... Man, they had these, tactical groups moving and doing, secret maneuvers and shit. Yeah, in Russia, in their own country. In Russia? No?
I'm pretty sure it wasn't NATO who put little green men inside Ukraine to destabilize eastern states.
I'm pretty sure that Ukraine is not a member of NATO. So unless that's changed,
it's not changed. But I'm pretty sure the movement by Russia is Russia's decision.
If NATO has moved east, the reason that the Russian army is closer or on NATO's doorstep is because NATO moved.
NATO is not an...
How dare you say that, Mr. Matt Lee from the Associated Press, you goddamn Putin propagandist. How dare you? How dare you?
Or on NATO's doorstep is because NATO moved.
NATO is not an anti-Russia alliance. NATO is a security alliance.
For 50 years, it was an anti-Soviet alliance. So do you not understand it? So do you not understand how, or can you not even see how the Russians will perceive it as a threat, and the fact that it keeps getting closer to their border while their troops I mean, the places where their troops are, you say their troops are, and they may have been in Ukraine and Georgia.
This is too
are
much
not
common
NATO.
sense for me. I
I'm
can't
not
handle
going to
it.
pretend to know what goes in President Putin's mind or Russian military commanders. I mean, I barely got a history degree at the University of South Florida. What I can tell you is that
Oh, why would you say that, man? Why did you self-own? He's like, I'm an idiot. I don't even know what I'm talking about. You sound like Putin. Oh, God, I had never seen something so funny in my life.
Or you say their troops are, and they may have been in Ukraine and Georgia, are not NATO members.
I'm not going to pretend to know what goes in President Putin's mind or Russian military commanders. I mean, I barely got a history degree at the University of South Florida. What I can tell you,
You're supposed to know what goes through commander's heads. You're the fucking Pentagon spokesperson, man. Oh my God, what a self-own. Whoa, no, why would you do this to yourself? Why would you tell on yourself like
the
that?
Russian military commanders. I mean, I barely got a history degree at the University of South Florida. What I can tell you is that NATO is a defensive alliance.
Here
It
we go
remains a
with the key
defensive
points.
alliance.
NATO's a defensive alliance. NATO's a defensive alliance. No. Putin. Yeah, okay. He's got the key points memorized. You know, don't ask him too much. Maps are not his thing. All right. Jim, maybe just for those of you who are still in doubt as to the nature of Matt's question, which our beloved Kirby, who I like Kirby because he looks like a. I mean, just listen to how he speaks. He sounds like a character from The Office. He reminds me of Michael Scott. He's like, I'm an idiot. I don't even know what I'm doing here. Let's look at this, okay? Maybe we can help Kirby out, okay? Everybody, get your pencils out. It's time for coloring. What do we see here? Is the red getting bigger or the blue getting bigger? What's going on here? Dark blue. There's more dark blue. Oh my God. Oh my God. Kirby's heart is gonna break when he sees this. Oh no. I mean, obviously, anyone can see that Russia is, moving closer towards. Dude, this is some of the. I'm speechless now, but I'll finish with what I said in London.
NATO is a defensive alliance. It's a defensive alliance. So when NATO bombed Serbia, they bombed Yugoslavia, that was defensive. When they sent NATO-backed rebels to lynch Gaddafi on camera like some rabid animal, that was defensive. We have our special forces, the SAS, running around with the Australian SAS, executing young Afghan boys. That's also defensive, apparently. We occupied Afghanistan for 20 years. That was defensive. Obama was drone striking funerals, drone striking weddings in Yemen and Pakistan. Also defensive. And then Trump goes and bombs Syria over some fake chemical attack that never happened with other NATO member states, with the French, with our planes. And that was also defensive. We have a pretty funny definition of defensive at NATO, don't we?
Yeah, go check it out. I think you'll enjoy it. I shat on them pretty hard. Well, there you go, guys. Now NATO has an extra member. NATO has doubled its border with Russia, which, I mean, I know there are people right now who are laughing or saying, oh, look at Putin, this idiot. He basically got the opposite of what he wanted. You may have won the battle, but the war is not over. And I hope it's over soon. Like I keep saying, this war shouldn't even have happened in the first place. It could have so easily been resolved with a fucking meeting and some coffee. Just sit in a room with the Russians and talk. What is wrong with you? You, the Western diplomats. Why are you incapable of fucking, common courtesy, diplomacy? This is really not that hard. If you can't do it, if you're not going to get off the pot, you don't belong in the Foreign and Commonwealth Office or in the State Department. You're not built for this. You get these amateurs like again, I don't want to pick on Blinken especially, but Baerbock is the worst one. You get these amateur greenhorns like Baerbock running around, making themselves, pretending that they belong on the same stage as someone like Lavrov. Forget that, he's Russian or what positions he has. That guy's an old school, legit diplomat, right? That guy's the old guard. You have a different class of people in this business. Annalena Baerbock is not one of them. Secretary Blinken, sorry man, I know you speak French. So what? So do I. That doesn't make you diplomatic. You know, these people are amateurs. They're not interested in peace. All they know is war, war, war. Oh, you know, we have to posture. We are the best, and all this arrogance leads to is more fucking suffering. And I don't know what is going to happen because of this, but you know, I wouldn't be surprised if you see the Arctic. Sorry, this is Stoltenberg yammering on again. But what are they trying to do? Like, they're trying to cause more tensions now with Finland and Russia. You know, I would argue that, you know, and you can say this about Ukraine even more. Ukraine is a NATO member in all but name, right? And Stoltenberg has admitted that himself, right? And there are more weapons, Western NATO weapons in Ukraine than in actual NATO member states. What I would say with Finland is that, you know, I'm not saying that they were, you know, 100% unfaithful to their supposed neutrality stance, but you have to understand something, man. Western countries are bitches, you know. They're on Uncle Sam's leash. Even the UK, especially the UK. They don't just do things or decide things by themselves. They're poodles, you know, poodles. They follow orders from Foggy Bottom, from Washington, D.C. So the fact that Finland is now officially in NATO, I don't think that changes the security architecture that much. I can guarantee you, though, that statement that they issued about if you move other NATO member troops to our border inside Finland, we will retaliate. That threat is 100% real. Well, it's not a threat; it's more of a warning. You know, back off. That is 100% real. I can guarantee you that. And the stupidest, most foolish thing you could possibly do now is move American or British or Italian NATO troops into Finland to provoke the Russians, or even just, you know, batteries, and basically kind of beefing up the place with new bases, new military installations. This is the worst thing that you can do, and you are provoking the Russians. Why do people not grasp this? How the fuck are you leading defense departments and, you know, state departments, and they can't grasp this, man? There comes a time where it's counterproductive, you know. If we, you know, the nukes start falling, you might not make it to your fancy little bunker, and we're all screwed. We don't have bunkers. This is counterproductive and dangerous, and these diplomats, you know, they're achieving nothing at all. All they know is, oh, NATO, and then, you know, repeat the same talking points. Anyway, I'm sort of going off on a rant because I'm mad at everybody, but this guy's so funny, man. Kirby is really a true character. He looks like a TV character. Anyway, that's it for me, man. When it comes to Sweden, you know that this is the place for international relations, and I am the one who will keep you up to date on all things foreign policy. And so I can, again, I'm just guessing, but I have a pretty strong feeling that Erdogan is going to allow Sweden to join NATO once he's milked them for every concession that he can fathom. That's it. So expect them to join NATO as well. And don't think that just because NATO has grown that Russia has lost. Who the hell knows what's going to happen?